So I've got a little bit of an issue here. It is 11:50 at night, and it's starting to get awfully cold in the house. And I go over here to this Nest unit, and it says error 74. It says check for a tripped breaker. There's no tripped breaker. It also says make sure your red wire is connected to your red port properly, and it is. It says your thermostat needs to shut down in order to recharge its battery. What the heck? And then it gives you a location where all the wires are supposed to be, and they're all hooked up properly. So, troubleshooting step number 3 says that your heating system will deactivate if whatever drain that you have on your system is not operating correctly. So if your drain doesn't have a place to go to drain constantly, and you have to have some type of pump or something like that, it will malfunction and it will shut the system off. I'm trying to diagnose this, so I come to this drain here and I'm looking at this drain. That's nasty. So I've got the drain thing all cleaned out. Sorry, I'm trying to be a little quieter because the family's just sleeping. Let me put this thing back in. I got the pump back in. I just turned this on. I just heard that fire off. The other thing that we're looking for with this carrier unit is this fuse right here. Fuse. It's a 3 amp fuse. It's good. I'm wondering if that Nest is just not charging correctly and it's starting to freak out, and that's why or this fuse had poor connection. And this unit is it's a carrier furnace and air conditioner setup. It's a 80K BTU and a 2.5 ton air conditioner. Here's our purchase receipt for it. They had it only in this house for a year before we got here. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to let that Nest charge for a little bit and then plug it back in and see if draining that down there with that shut off switch, maybe that float came up and turned the system off to stop it from malfunctioning, and it needs to be hooked back up. I have no idea. I don't think that float was the issue, because the 2 wires that are the shut off, I think that's what these are, they're not even hooked up to anything. It's now 2:18 in the morning, and I have finally figured out what is wrong with my furnace. It wasn't the float kicking it off down there. It was not the Google control head. It's the upper limit switch. Basically, I went to the diagram and I looked at what controls the furnace portion, and I took some green shielded wire and I stripped the ends back off of a piece of shielded wire, and I unplugged fired the unit back up, the code started flashing different on the little indicator light here, and then moments later it started glowing down there and the furnace turned on. The problem with this is there's nothing controlling it to stop it from overheating. So this is only temporary to get heat in the house. I have to order a new upper limit switch to actually fix this unit. Well, going online real quick and searching around all the different warehouses, it says this particular one for this unit, L205-40F, is out of stock. And it says most places won't be back in stock for 3 to 4 weeks. Every single place I went to for this particular upper limit switch for this unit, out of stock, out of stock, out of stock, back order, out of stock. So I called up the 24-hour heating and air conditioning people, and I gave them all my troubleshooting that I did. She took notes, and she said, wow, never had a homeowner call and say that they've done the troubleshooting from charging the Nest to going in there and checking the float to checking the breaker. And you know, she says, wow, you've done quite a bit. And I said, yeah, well, yeah, I'm just following the chart. And I bypassed the upper limit switch and it turned right on. So I know I have an upper limit switch problem. And she said, yeah, sounds like it. Let me get a technician spun up and let me see if he's even got the switch. And if he does have the switch, then we can have him come out and install it for you. Or if we don't have it, we're not going to waste your time, and you've obviously done the homework already. Let's just figure out if we can communicate and get a switch out to you. You might pay a premium price for it, but at least we can get the switch put in and get you guys safely back up and rolling. Typically they say that this type of thing happens whenever you have a blower motor issue, like the fan assembly is not running true, or they're starting to make noise because something's wrong with the fan, or you have an air filter that is restricted, or you have too many vents in the home that are covered up and they're restricted. So there's some kind of restriction in the system that's not allowing air to move freely, and it overheats that upper limit switch, and they can go bad. Or when it's a real cold day out and the heat is running constantly and it doesn't ever have I guess a chance to regulate or a chance to cool down properly. It really wears on that upper limit switch, and this is the type of thing that can happen. One of the main things is a plugged filter, which this one wasn't plugged. It was a little bit dirty, but it was not plugged. It is what it is. Now we wait and see if we can get somebody in here to put a switch in it. Well, that was the technician just got back a hold of me. He says he won't be able to know whether or not he can get the part until like 8 o'clock in the morning, because he said he has to call the parts warehouse and he has to see where they get the parts, if he can pick it up. It's not something he just has on his truck. And he said, I'll have to give you a call back. You know, it sucks that you're going through this right now, but he said you can't just leave that switch bypassed. You're going to have somebody awake monitoring that, just trying to make sure that system doesn't overheat, because it can cause more problems. And he said you almost smell it. And you almost smell like the vents are just getting extremely hot because it doesn't know how to regulate it, or it won't shut itself off in case there's an issue or something like that. So he said just be careful doing that. There's nothing wrong with what you did, but in the meantime, you're gonna have to get yourself a switch put in there right away. And he said, if you're seeing that this particular part is back ordered, I don't know what I'm gonna find in the morning when I try to get that part. So he said, let's just reconvene and talk at 8 o'clock in the morning. The thing that sucks is I have to leave. We were all gonna head out to Ford's Garage in Dearborn for my birthday, kind of like a late birthday deal. And the family's looking forward to getting up and going, because they all wanted to have a good weekend. And now this happens right at bedtime. Go me. Anyway, this is the troubleshooting for a Carrier no heat condition with the furnace.
and it can be a one flash. It'll be like a quick one flash or a slow one flash, and then it'll be a fast three flash. It'll go flash, 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 or it'll be a 3 and 3, and that's your other error code. 1 3 and 3 3 are pretty much the same thing with your error codes. It'll go flash, 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 flash. The speeds will be different, but it'll be 3 and 3, or it'll be 1 and 3. And if you look in your owner's manual, it says it has something to do with the limit circuit, limit switch circuit. And that's what that is. The upper limit switch went bad. And this is the workaround for it to figure out what it is. Yeah. And it's not just carrier. I think it's carrier, and then Tran is like a 4 flash, 1 and 4 or something like that for the limit switch. And there's other units that basically end up all being the same thing. We'll see. I'll let y'all know what happens.